So did the European peoples create civilization all over the world and build nations? Was that because they were so incredibly intelligent, or was it something else? I want to debunk the myths about intelligence, and I'm gonna go over some points in order so we can understand what it is that makes us prosperous and free. But first, let's take a look at the Word of God.
The wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way, but the folly of fools is deceit. Fools mock at sin, but among the upright there is favor. The heart knows its own bitterness, and a stranger does not share its joy. The house of the wicked will be overthrown, but the tent of the upright will flourish. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. Even in laughter the heart may sorrow, and the end of mirth may be grief. The backslider in heart will be filled with his own ways, but a good man will be satisfied from above. The simple believes every word, but the prudent considers well his steps. A wise man fears and departs from evil, but a fool rages and is self-confident. A quick-tempered man acts foolishly, and a man of wicked intentions is hated. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. The evil will bow before the good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. The poor man is hated even by his own neighbor, but the rich has many friends. He who despises his neighbor sins, but he who has mercy on the poor, happy is he. Do they not go astray who devise evil? But mercy and truth belong to those who devise good. In all labor there is profit, but idle chatter leads only to poverty. The crown of the wise is their riches, but the foolishness of fools is folly. A true witness delivers souls, but a deceitful witness speaks lies. In the fear of the Lord there is strong confidence, and his children will have a place of refuge. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, to turn one away from the snares of death. In a multitude of people is a king's honor, but in the lack of people is the downfall of a prince. He who is slow to wrath has great understanding, but he who is impulsive exalts folly. A sound heart is life to the body, but envy is rottenness to the bones. He who oppresses the poor reproaches his maker, but he who honors him has mercy on the needy. The wicked is banished in his wickedness, but the righteous has a refuge in his death. Wisdom rests in the heart of him who has understanding, but what is in the heart of fools is made known. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. The king's favor is toward a wise servant, but his wrath is against him who causes shame.
So who is the most intelligent race on this earth? According to studies, on average, the black man is less intelligent than the white man. But according to the same studies, the white man is less intelligent than, for example, the Chinese and the Japanese man. So what does it mean that the average Oriental man has a higher IQ than the white man? Does it mean all white men are stupid? No, there are intelligent people among all races. There are intelligent black people, intelligent Japanese people, and intelligent white people. But we're talking about averages. So, if the Oriental man is more intelligent than white people, then why is it that the white people gave them civilization? We know through unbiased anthropologists that the white Caucasian men over thousands of years went all over this world and established religions and civilizations. And we know this because we find the symbol of the Caucasian man, the Aryan man, in the swastika we find in South America all the way to China and Japan. Even we found artifacts of Native Americans who had symbols with swastikas. So 6,000 years ago God formed Adam and his wife Eve, right? He was gonna do something through Adam. Even though I believe there was already white man before God created the man Adam, the creation of Genesis 1. So was Adam the most intelligent being placed in the garden? No, he was not. He was even beguiled and deceived by someone else. This someone else was not a talking snake, neither was he a red devil with a pitchfork. This was someone else. The Bible even calls him that he was more subtle than all the beasts of the field. But if we skip forward 6,000 years ago and we look at the now, we see that all nations and all races try to mimic the European culture. So why is it that this European culture has such an attraction to all other races? For example, when you look at music, the entire world uses European musical instruments, European chord progressions and European melodies. The other day I heard Vietnamese people playing music, and it was European music, only with a Vietnamese language on top of it. So we see that European culture, the culture that came out of the Caucasian men, is very attractive to other peoples, and they try to mimic it. And some races are smarter at mimicking than other races. For example, within the European people, there were some great minds who came up with electricity and cars and all kinds of other inventions. Now, of course, the Japanese and the Chinese also have cars, but did they invent those cars? No, they mimicked that technology. And it was also a very greedy white man who thought he could make a lot of money selling that technology. So even though the Japanese and the Koreans have on average the highest IQ score, they still did not come up with any of these inventions. And why don't we see any cars being made in African nations, whether it is in Nigeria or in Morocco or even in the Middle East? We even see now in the Middle East when all the oil production made them so rich that they still cannot make their own cars. All these rich people in the Middle East, they still drive European cars. And they make European buildings mimicking the Western, especially the American cities with the skyscrapers. It's all mimicking. But if we look at the European nations and America, we see that all kinds of races seem to be just like us. When we see them driving cars or coming out of a university or whatever. But is this a sign of godliness? Is this a sign of intelligence? No, driving a car is not a sign of godly intelligence. As a matter of fact, you see here a chimpanzee driving a golf cart, right? Especially in America, where the automatic transmission is favored among the manual transmission. You know, it's not hard to drive a go-kart we all have in America with a gas pedal and a brake. That's not hard, and steering, right? Anyone can do that, right? Even though you often see that people know how to go forward, but they have no sense of the surroundings. But it's another story. But driving a car does not mean and other people are the same as you. So what about graduating from university? We see people graduating from all races, even though they lowered the bar for certain people so they could attend the university. But this worldly view of intelligence has to do with the capacity to memorize things. But being able to memorize certain things very well, does that give you a godly intelligence? Well, we see here that even this chimpanzee is much better in memorizing numbers. He's even faster than most humans, right? It's just a blink that he sees these numbers. He just has to see it half a second, and 9 out of 10 times he has the right order. So to gain understanding, to gain wisdom, should we look up to intelligent people like Jordan Peterson, right? Or all the others who sound so eloquent and use all these fancy words, right? It doesn't even matter what color they are, as long as they sound eloquent. And I know I'm not an eloquent speaker and I have a weird accent, and no matter how hard I would try, you would point out immediately that I'm not born in America, right? So someone who sounds like an American because he's born here, does that mean that he is the same as you? Because God chose a people, right? And that has to do with the Spirit of God. That is, if you accept and live in the Spirit of God. But most people don't want to live in God's presence. They think they can outsmart God. And this is the folly of intelligent men, that they think they know much better. And especially after the French Revolution, it became the age of Enlightenment. This was people who thought they could outsmart God and arrange this world and the foundations of the world through their own intelligence. And these people think they are so smart. So let's take a look at this smart, intelligent, eloquent speaking person, Jordan Peterson, where everybody hopes to find answers because they think he has more wisdom than they have.
Medieval Europeans identified 7 deadly sins for a reason. And one of them was pride. It's like, let's make the presumption. I do believe that for reasons that aren't obvious, that the West has got some things right. We've got the sovereignty of the individual right. That's the most fundamental thing we've got right. We've articulated that, I think, in a remarkable way, not only theologically, philosophically, in our body of laws, in our societies. And one of the consequences of that, as it's had its effect on the rest of the world, is that everyone is getting richer quite fast. And that's a really good thing. Okay, having said that, it's like, am I proud of that? It's like, I didn't do that. What the hell? Pride. What's that? That's not the right response. How about responsibility for that? How would that be? It's like you're part of this great and unlikely set of propositions, this strange set of propositions that says that in some ineffable manner, the poorest person is as valuable as the king. It's like, how the hell did we ever figure that out? That's an impossible thing to think, and yet that's the bedrock of our legal system. That's nothing to be proud of. That's something to tremble before, to take on as an ethical burden, and not to wave a flag for how wonderful you are that you happen to have the same skin color as some of the people who thought that up.
So God chose a people to work through. And one of the greatest things they had to do was love each other, honor the fathers, but also honor the forefathers. It's about inheritance. It's about a love for who you are. And God did wonderful things while we were obedient. But according to Jordan Peterson, there's nothing to be proud of. You have to give away your inheritance because your inheritance is not something you did. And now, if we look, because of these men, these enlightened men who think they know much better than God, who think they are morally superior than God, they have brought on big destruction for the West. Jesus came to separate the sheep from the goats. Yes, the goats could be very intelligent. They even ruled the kingdom of Judah, which was part of the Roman Empire. But Jesus came to save his sheep and bring them into the new covenant. And the goats have hated Jesus and the descendants that came out of Jacob ever since. And they have managed to take away the fear of the Lord, which is the beginning of wisdom. And they started the age of enlightenment that wants to rule this world through the intelligence of men, boastful men, right, who bring destruction to their own folly. So people from North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, they want to come to the West because they say they can build a society, they can build a nation like Europe because of the circumstances. But European people all through history never complained about circumstances. When the Dutch and the English went to South Africa, it was a wilderness. There was nothing there. It was such a vast land. Yes, and you had some Zulus living there, but mostly it was empty because no one knew what to do with that land. They came there with ships, with nothing. And they built the most prosperous nation the world has ever seen. Yes, South Africa used to be one of the richest, most prosperous nations in the world. What about North America, when the Europeans founded the 13 nations of the United Nations of America on the East Coast? And these people went into the Wild West. And they were not the most intelligent people in the world, but they went with their faith and with nothing, just horses and cars. They went and conquered the West. They never complained about it being a wilderness or they didn't have any opportunities. They went and they built from scratch the most powerful, beautiful nation the world has ever seen. So why is it that all nations of the entire world want to be in Europe and America? Are they admitting it is much better there? And they use the excuse of more opportunities? Why are there more opportunities in the West? It was because God gave his children these nations.